Nobody reads the situation well. They call you the glass cannon, mighty but you shatter. Where would you be without your toes and your pockets? Better keep your eye on your bag of components. Where would you be without your toes and your pockets? Better keep your eye on your bag of components. Evocation, conjuration, necromancy, divination, transmutation, aspiration, enchantment, illusion. Where would you be without your toes and your pockets? Better keep your eye on your bag of components. Where would you be without your toes and your pockets? Better keep your eye on your bag of components. From the depths of the dungeons to the tavern brawls, save the king, killed a giant. We've been through it all. I could fill up a tome, but you're not coming home. Well, we all saw it happen. We're the ones you saved. Gonna light you a candle. Gonna tell your tale by the light of the moon. We'll remember you, dying a hero. Tried to help you with that diamond, but it wouldn't save your soul. On that fateful day, the evil wizard came. Now everybody in this realm is singing out your name. Can you hear us sitting out there in the astral plane? Our adventures together went to hell and back. Spent the day slaying dragons and escaping traps, but massive damage is done. Now you're really gone. But we'll remember you, dying a hero. Tried to help you with that diamond, but it wouldn't save your soul. On that fateful day, the evil wizard came. Can you hear us sitting out there in the astral plane?
Hello and welcome to Office Hours. I hope you're having a fantastic Friday the 5th, June 2026. Team, let's chat. What's new? Oh my goodness. It's been 2 weeks since we last been here at Office Hours. And we got new questions in the Q&A forum. We got a handful of new stuff to talk about that came through in our, let me pull up my Office Hours document here. Office Hours. And then of course we have time for Q&A. So let me go ahead and bring this up. I hope you're all having a great day. I hope your games are all fantastic this weekend. Shouldn't be that quiet. Should be on the precipice of loud. Let me go ahead and see where my notes say. Okay. All right, team. So first, what do we call in kids games? What do we call in kids games? So we were working on this the other day. We have like a weird kind of funky problem. We want to call it kids games. We won't call it kids games. For example, kids games works for like kids, like children. But if you're a teenager, kids games doesn't really work for you as much. So some of the things that we are throwing around is youth adventures, young squires, a few things like that we are exploring. Young adventures, Bohatter, we had been exploring, but the reason we might stay away from that is there is the Young Adventures Guild book series by Dungeons and Dragons, aka Wizards of the Coast, and that might take up a substantial size of the search market. We might not be using this branded name. This just might be kind of like what you see that version of the site called. But we have done a number of like digging into, but it might be youth adventures or young heroes. Young heroes is kind of like one of my favorite right now, young heroes. But this will kind of be like a branded name for kids games. Minor adventures, major heroes. Sorry, something just fell somewhere. Start playing junior. Yeah, the idea is like junior is great for like 9 to 10, but if you're a teenager, junior is a little could be childish to so you need to find something that runs the gamut of youth. Right, but you can't, Veronica Warlock, great, teens are also fine with being called teens, but you can't call everything teen, right? Because we need a good name that runs from everything from 9-year-olds to 17-year-olds. So that's why it needs to be a really strong, all-encompassing name. So Young Heroes is kind of what we're leaning into right now. Dungeon Delinquents is my vote. Xeon Twilight, thank you. But that's just like a fun thing that we've been putzing around with. Another fun thing that you could go ahead and brainstorm on, Veronica Warlock, can you separate in library? That would actually probably be counterintuitive to the product. To have the thing is there will be separate filters. There's going to be a teen filter. There's going to be a preteen filter. A young kids filter. But a brand presence overall needs to have a cohesive name. And having several brands is counterintuitive because then you're essentially stretching your you're stretching out a lot of your effort and brand awareness through multiple brands, and that's just not as valuable. Adventures Camp is really cool. I like that, but Adventures Camp is probably more of like a campaign that we'll have come summertime or breaks. The idea of camp is definitely something we're excited to look into. Of like, hey, we're gonna have camps, like where GMs can run games every day for a week because it's summer, which I think will be really fun. But moving on to another thing, we also need to talk about badge ideas. So there's a number of badges. Not everyone has unlocked all the badges. There's some other badges out there, some secret badges. But we're going to keep adding badges. But if you have new badge ideas that you want to suggest, you could add them to Future OS, which is the platform that we used for people to submit feature ideas. If you have badge ideas that you want us to consider, that's where you can submit them. And that's what I'll be looking into those to see what badges we might add in. A badge for winning GM chat. There is actually a badge for winning GM chat. It is the not involved in GM chat. The participation badge, the anime badge, a badge for disregarding instructions and sharing a badge idea with you here instead. The badge for having 20 plus badges. I like these. There was some. What was the other one? There was a really funny one. But we'll continue to add more badges too. There's like I said, there's a handful that people haven't unlocked yet. At least I believe so. Badge should have a badger. Can I get a badge that's just my cat? No. Maybe. Oh great, I lost the game badge. Name it, we're going to need a bigger badge. I don't need no badges for having no badges. Any news on SPG at events to run in person? Gen Con, MomoCon, Guy and Robe. I'll actually be talking about that in a little bit here. Actually, I'll go ahead and move top GM questions down, and we could talk about Gen Con. So Gen Con is coming, really, really excited. We have a bunch of GMs. I think the most GMs we've ever had at Gen Con are coming to Gen Con. Thank you to Odd Scrolls for being the organizer of that. That's fantastic. And then Odd Scrolls Death Wish 5e is also just absolutely smashing. So Gen Con is going to be a blast. We are going to be having signups soon for headshots. We have a photographer who's coming to Gen Con who will be doing headshots for photographers. So you have a really nice profile photo. It'll be first to all of our game masters, and then we'll open up to anyone else who wants a really nice headshot. And of course, we'll have the happy hour. That'll be really fun. And that'll be on Thursday. What else about Gen Con? That's kind of about Gen Con. Let's see. Odd Squirrel says, question, can I share a fun SPG Gen Con statistic with you, Devon? Odd Squirrel, you absolutely can. Let's see. Outside of Deathwish 5e, GM submitted events with a player seat total of 174. Only 28 of those are still available. That's 84% sell rate, and there's still almost 2 months to go. Wow, that is fantastic. That is amazing. Because from my knowledge, Gen Con, even with 2 months to go, almost every event usually books up. So this early, having that much sold out is fantastic. Okay, I had a note on here to talk about monthly subscription pricing. When the average seat sold price is upwards of $50, amazing. So I see this question every now and again, monthly subscription pricing, people wanting this as a feature. Right now, the way StartPlaying works, it is a la carte pricing, right? You're paid for the session you participate in. And monthly, you're like, hey, I want to charge my players as a monthly subscription. That fundamentally changes the business, not just the business model, but the classification of you as the classification of the charge. So that actually changes a lot of things, and that's one reason why we haven't gone that way, because this is a completely different type of business when you are providing that type of service rather than being a subscription service. So that's another reason why we've kind of avoided that, outside of the fact that when we've talked to players, almost none of them have preferred the idea of a monthly charge. They've all kind of preferred a weekly charge. And even when we've talked to kind of like parents about the idea of doing, because kids games is going, when you sign up for a campaign, you're charged for every session, even if you're skipping. They still prefer to be charged weekly rather than monthly. So that's two kind of really interesting components there, and why we don't kind of really offer that. Now you can work around that. You can tell folks that you can just charge them monthly. You can do custom charge. You can have them buy gift cards. So there's a lot of ways you can solve this, but that's just kind of a note around that, because I've seen some folks kind of writing into me about like, hey, why can't I do this? GM Cheyenne, I'll be at Gen Con, but working with other tabletop game publishers while there. Betrayal. No, I'm just kidding. Cheyenne, you're absolutely welcome to get headshots. This is for anyone who is a GM at StartPlaying. It's open to all StartPlaying game masters to get their headshot. Not just game masters who are running games at Gen Con. This is just, even if you're not running any games at Gen Con, but you're a StartPlaying game master, this is for you. Same with the happy hour. No, you must put all eggs in one basket. Also, the idea of a subscription also comes with this idea of like, well, I couldn't make this session, so I want a refund for part of my subscription. It becomes so messy so quickly. And so another reason why we haven't really explored that. Let's see. We got a privacy policy update coming out because we're launching kids games. So privacy policy is a little more stringent. There'll be an update coming out that you'll have to agree, or there'll be an email, something like that. We're doing like some fingerprinting so we can, when people who have been banned or people who have committed fraud or things like that can't sign up for multiple accounts. Fingerprinting is essentially like, oh, we've recognized the credit card or the IP or things like that. Let's see. Auto events, private events, and restricted events. I think we talked about this last time, but I'll talk about it again. Auto events is something that we're going to be building probably in July. It is an event that you don't opt into. So, for example, PaizoCon is happening, right? It's not, but like imagine PaizoCon is happening. The idea of PaizoCon is it's any game, it's Starfinder and Pathfinder. It's really unnecessary to send out so much messaging to game masters to participate in PaizoCon. Instead, we should just be like, hey, this event is PaizoCon. It doesn't have a different take rate. Nothing else changes. It's just, it is Paizo celebrating the fact that like, hey, look at all of our games. So we can just create an event that just pulls in all of Pathfinder games, all of Starfinder games, and create an event that just runs around that. Additionally, there is the idea of private events. Private events are where only select GMs can run a game for that event. So let's say it is for an organized play. Let's say there's a group of organized play where there's only 10 GMs that are approved in this organized play to run games for it. If we had an event right now, anyone can run a game for that event because it just shows up in the dropdown. These private events would only show up for those approved GMs. All players can see it because we don't want to make private events, that restricted. But this could also work for in-person events. This would work really well because we don't want anyone to be able to make a listing for an in-person event if they're not going to be at that event. But let's say we're going to have an in-person event in San Francisco sometime in July or August, and there's only going to be 7 GMs that will be able to run games for that. We want that event page to be easily navigable for players who are looking for those games, but we don't want just any GM to be able to make a game for that event. So we can go ahead and say, hey, these 7 GMs are approved for it. They can make games for this event. So that is kind of what we are working around with the idea of private events. Let's see, and then restricted events. I've talked about this a little bit before, I think, but the idea of restricted events is people keep joining events with the wrong games, and I think this is a little bit of like just classic mistake, and sometimes people trying to like get as much exposure to their games as possible. So it's like Legend of the Mist, and people are joining with a D&D game because they saw Legend of the Mist and they don't know that's a game, and they're like, this seems like an opportunity to get my game, to get my listing in front of more people, when there's a restriction of like, this has to be a Legend of the Mist adventure that you're running. So it creates a lot of admin time for people to go in like, hey, you can't be running this game, it's got to be this system. So now you won't, in the future, you won't be able to join certain events unless you are meeting those requirements, the criteria. Nina says, question, will this be available before the Cypher 2 event? Hopefully. I'm waiting to hear back on some of that, but I'd be very excited to see that for the Cypher 2 event. Let's see. Any other questions on events? Okay. Let's see. What else do we got? Talked privacy policy. We talked the requirement to pay for each seat in kids' games. We talked Gen Con. We talked badge ideas. We talked about what we're calling kids' games. We haven't talked new merch. I could give you a sneak peek of the new merch. Maybe we should do that at the end. Player-driven bounties. We're still working away on that. There's so much to do on kids games. We are like probably in the last like 3 to 6 weeks of kids games before we can start allowing game masters to start the application process. The application process is going to be thorough. You will be able to join. From there, you have to then get your 5 references from parents or guardians about your time running games for kids. After that, you have to also take kind of like a quiz. You have to read through some of our documentation about like, hey, what is required? You have to go and take this quiz. And this is kind of like, hey, this is like what is expected on the kids platform. Once you pass that, then you could also then take the application. Once you take the application, it'll get reviewed. Once the application is reviewed and that is approved, then you'll be able to have you'll be able to do the background check. If your background check is then approved, then you'll get access to the platform. You'll still have to do a mandatory onboarding before your account fully unlocks. And that onboarding will be, I think it's going to be manual with some people to start. And then afterwards, it'll probably be a little more automated. The background check is like 7 things. It is the most thorough background checks we can be doing. No one else that is doing kids games is doing anything as thorough as we're doing. We essentially looked at the entire marketplace. We look at what EduTech is doing, and we're trying to do like 2-3 steps above everyone. Let's see. Question, bounty board questions. Are they starter packs only for now? Can we get email alerts for new posts? RKNG, so I don't know if we're gonna do email alerts just yet. If we get to a certain critical mass, there will be email alerts. But just not yet. And I think where there's some partnerships that we are hoping to enter into, and if those partnerships get us to a certain critical mass, then there might be some emails. And if we see that number kind of increase, and we see any of our health metrics that we look at, then we might start detailing it where like you only see games that you know how to run or you have experience running or things like that. But right now, the health metrics for bounty is very strong. Like 98% of bounties get claimed. Something like 89% of bounties have a transaction after a bounty comes in. Most of them have a transaction associated with them. Carlos Martin says, if you're doing background checks, can people outside the U.S. apply? Not to start. So we're going to be spending a significant amount of time making sure that we have solid traction with kids games before we decide that we're going to fully commit to kids games and is going to become a core vertical for the brand. I have a really high confidence that this is going to be incredibly successful for game masters and for ourselves, but there's always a chance that this is the wrong bet. And if that is the case, we have to be able to cycle back. And doing a launch that includes US and international is 5x as expensive to start than if we had just started with US. So it'll be US to start. Let's see. Dreamsleeper, do they have to be paid as verified reviews or using a different review process? It'll be unverified reviews. This is the referrals will be unverified because they can't play with you yet. You haven't been approved to become a GM. Bronze Dionysus, for anything involving children, yeah, it's got to be extremely thorough. Absolutely. Like I said, like one of our biggest goals here is to be fantastic stewards for youth games. I'm going to ask the local library to let me run one shot for kids games in return for the recommendations. Okay, cool. Okay, let's see. Let me go ahead and go to the questions that we have that people have submitted into the anonymous form. We have a question from Anonymous. Any plans on expanding your method of money transaction? My country can't use Stripe, so I'm wondering if there was another way. There is actually a number of GMs from Brazil and a number of other countries that have several workarounds, so they can still use Stripe. Right now, we are locked in with Stripe. If we, but right now I don't see us moving to a competitor that can service us the same way Stripe does, that offers us everything Stripe does at a better price and has the same features. Unfortunately, Stripe is the most robust and the best price in the game right now. When you think about everything Stripe is doing, and it is like 100 things. Everything from what they do with fraud, what they do with chargebacks, what they do with international payments, what they do with FX fees. There's so much that Stripe does, and it would be very difficult to do that piecemeal with 8 different companies, along with making sure that we have the same rate across everything. So it is difficult. The big thing that we keep doing is we keep pushing and asking Stripe to make sure that it can continue to expand their markets, so we can work with folks in every country. Rodrigo says, Marvel event win. No, seriously, they keep releasing stuff for the system. I imagine they haven't requested an event yet because the threads get lost in such a big company. Use your superpowers, Devon. I would love to do an event with Marvel. Maybe the team I was talking to, maybe their bandwidth is busy, or maybe they're no longer there. I haven't heard back, but the folks I have been talking to were really excited about doing an event, and I think maybe they may be no longer on that team. But I no longer have a contact that I'm talking with at Marvel, Rodrigo. So unfortunately, it seems like the Marvel event is not happening at this time, but I would love to do something with Marvel. I think that they're fantastic. I really like the game. And so If anyone does know anyone there, let them know. We want to do an event, especially with our new Learn to Play funnel. I think that would be fantastic for Marvel. Let's see, what other questions do we have? I had sessions end and I'm setting up new games. It would be handy as a GM to be able to see full games in different systems. Let's say I'm thinking of running Serenity. Is there any interest in it? 2 games listed, and then no. But what if there were another 10 games, all full? I can't see. Then it would be a good system to try. Maybe just graph of games? Systems were somewhere for GM to see. This kind of data is proprietary. We really don't want to share this, but that's why we do have the popularity by system. But let me also tell you why this is kind of difficult in terms of data. If 5 people are running a game, you can't infer a trend off of that. It's again the rule of large numbers. And if 5 people are running a game, you could also look at that data as the same thing as like, oh, not enough people are running this game. There might be opportunity here. If 10 people are running the game, you could also say that this game is saturated if it's too small. So it's really hard to infer data effectively here. And that's why everyone here that has heard me say this before, and we'll say it again, run your best game ever. And sometimes that might take a little bit longer, but you run the games that you want to run, and yes, it might take a little bit longer, and sometimes you have to build yourself into a community that already is interested in playing those games, but putting those games out there and also becoming a great GM on the platform, the bounty board does help with those other games. It's actually interesting, the bounty board, 90% of games on the bounty board are not Pathfinder or D&D, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, it's a very hard thing. If I gave you that data, you could read it in so many ways, and that's the problem with small data. You can't really determine a trend from it. It's the same thing if we were to deliver impression data, right? If you said, I have 7 impressions or 70 impressions and 2 click-throughs, that's still too small of numbers to really get a trend off of. You need much larger numbers to determine a trend, because one person clicking and booking can throw off the entire conversion trend, right? And sometimes you also have to keep in mind your game looks more popular the more people book, right? So when your game has 3 people in it, it's more likely to get booked. When your game has 0 people in it, it's not likely to get booked. Even impression data is wonky, because if people come to the site and they land on it, and your game is one of the first ones they see, but then they go and they navigate to a search filter, they're going to have an impression on your game. That's going to count against you, but they had no interest in it because they just happened to land and see your game first. So, and again, we're not even getting close enough to having enough data to warrant that. Now, there is some interesting things where we can start to look at maybe trends across games and start to give you insights based off of your game is similar to X game, and that game has this trend, and that game is getting popular, getting booked. But that's maybe some things we can maybe explore with machine learning down the road. But right now, a lot of that trend stuff just wouldn't, it would maybe put GMs in a, lead them in a troubling light. Now, I do think it would maybe be helpful, and if we get large enough and we can start building things like this, to maybe do like A/B testing for thumbnails, but that's a very difficult tool to build. And so we have to kind of like focus on some other things first before we get big enough to build that kind of thing. Along with even those type of metrics, being able to support and the maintenance on that would be huge. And one of the reasons, again, why we don't kind of prioritize that is like that data wouldn't allow you really to make informed decisions. Okay. Sorry, that's what a rant. No Mandalorian and Grogu event. I was trying. Grogu's agents are just notorious for not getting back to me. Okay, let's see. Rob Zake's question: is the game system popularity based in total number of active games, total number of active and pending games, total number of paid players, total number of seats booked. Shivek, nope, that's not a question. Faye Wild Witchling. Question: if I'm in touch with a game publisher about art asset use and want to get them in touch with SBG for the purpose of adding the art to the GM art folder, who should I patch them to? Support at startplayinggames.com is perfect. Or you can have them, Devon at startplayinggames.com. You can put both of us on there. But the support team, they manage that art folder and they can add it right away. And it's always good for them to see that right away because they will be managing it, and they'll also then know, like, cool, we have this partnership. But if you want to include me on that, that's great. In case that publisher wants to have a direct line to me if they have any questions as well. Let's see. Arcan. Is that an I or an L at the end of your name? Archangel? Is it Archangel? Archangel or Archangel I? Okay, you let me know. Bounty question. What are the ethics regarding people who sign up with only one person? Can we grab them and open it up for more people to join? Are we committed to run the game with one person? The bounty, when you accept it is a public game. When you accept a bounty and you create the game, it creates a public game for people to join. In fact, when you go through the bounty flow and you choose one person, it says in the description, if you don't have enough people for a party, the game master opens the game up for the public for more people to join. Now, you have to run the game even if there's just one player. That's the idea of the bounty, is like the players kind of guaranteeing the experience, and that's kind of one thing to note. But most bounties end up with around 2 or more people end up actually playing. Archangely, you can absolutely have more people playing the game. The idea is when you accept the game, it's supposed to be open. Maybe I'm answering the question. Maybe I don't understand the question. Can you rephrase the question, or did you ask it the right way and I'm misunderstanding it? I'm going to move over to Big Fraking Sword. That's not your name. You've changed your name. Question: with Dungeon Master class event, do you have any recommendations and/or guidelines for pricing? I've done a cursory look into comparable fields. The prices can vary quite a bit. I would do high price for low seats and low price for high seats. I've been thinking of donating some of my art to the community art folder, but would like some attribution if used. Unfortunately, it is one thing that we can't promise to regulate. So what you could do is on your art, you can put a signature or some sort of attribution. But one of the hard things is adding more to the customer's team of things to regulate. And the community art folder, being able to regulate past that. Anything in community art is you're saying like, hey, you are going to ask people to use this in a certain way, but if they do not, there's not much that can be done about that. And so it's one of those things we can police as much as possible, but knowing that people can break those rules is something to keep in mind. But that's why I would probably put, in the README, like, hey, please, and most people are going to, but there's always a chance that someone may not. So I might just put something like, a watermark or some sort of a signature on the actual piece itself. Okay, it is our Archangel. You answered it, thank you, great. Daniel says, out of interest, following the top GM criteria overhaul, how many GMs have achieved the badge? About 30% of active GMs. So originally, when we had made the badge, around 30% of GMs, but we have grown quite a bit from that year test. And so the retooling also kind of expanded to another 30%, or to what is now 30%. Are we able to send art for the community folder? Yeah, that's what it's there for. You can just send it over to support. Yeah, it is an admin quagmire. That's why it's like the idea is like, hey, like we will not police it. We will not, like if you want to submit something for the team or for the community art, you can, but it is just, we will not police, manage, or not police, but we will not regulate it or do any administrative to it. Now, since 30% are top GM, is there another top GM badge for the top 10%? There is. The people who are in the top 10 got an email, a specific email. You're in the top 10 of the top 30, and then the people in the top 10 of that got an email, and the people in the top 10 of that got an email, and the people in the top 10 of that got an email. And so there's the top GM, and there's the top GM, and then there's the top GM, and there's the tippity top GM. But we only have one status badge, so we just decided we'd use that for all of them. How many GMs are running 5+ games a week? I have no idea. I'd have to go into Metabase and run a query. This is a bit. It is a bit. It's absolutely a bit. There's no separation between top GMs. Let's see. Okay, I got another question in the anonymous. Could we get Mystara listed as a world for the D&D game, please? Yeah, message support. They will gladly add that. We got a Schubert. Bless you. In the last office hours, you mentioned that there was no difference between D&D and other systems retention. Is whether a player has a Pro GM account a factor in those statistics? I know I've signed up for a multiple of indie games, learn to play, simply because I want to learn the system. At the same time, I doubt any Pro GM is signing up to play D&D learn to plays. Perhaps I'm biased. I'm just searching for a way that indie games are better, but it's also strange to me that Pro GMs as a player would be lumped in with the rest of the data. At Schubert, bless you, the volume of Pro GMs in this data is so small that it doesn't sway that trend. There's and also the amount of it's crazy that the amount of players who play in non-D&D is that are not game masters, right? We very often remove game masters from when we're doing a lot of our analysis, because game masters are we're all so curious. When I'm looking at filter usage, I have to remove game masters because game masters use filters at like a 700x anyone else. They're like looking at like, how did my game show up? And they're like, it's like Minority Report, like trying to figure out how their game is showing up. So we often remove game masters data anytime we're looking at player data for that overlap specifically. Because if enough game masters are doing something, it'll throw off a trend, or it'll create a trend, and we're like, what is happening here? It's like when you remove game masters from GM search, you realize that GM search has very little traffic. Do you know what will be the process for being selected for the GM private events? Is there going to be, who knows? We have no idea. Sometimes there has been events where the publisher already has GMs that they want to use. There is some potential live events that we might do in San Francisco, Philadelphia, Austin, Texas, Chicago, some other places where we might do some like live events that we would have. It would be private in the sense that like only certain GMs could list for that event. But the idea of a private event is only certain GMs could apply. There would be likely an application process, much like many of our other events, where you go and you fill out a Google form to be able to participate. Okay, let's see. I think that is all the anonymous questions that we have right now. Q&A. Yep, that's all the anonymous questions. So now, any other questions that you have in here, and then in the meantime, I can go ahead and show you a sneak peek of our new merch. Oh, and we're hiring. We're hiring right now. So if you know anyone who lives in the Bay Area, who wants to work for StartPlaying, send them the job listing. Okay. Let's see, which one do I want to send you? All right. Is this the one? Okay, yeah, this is the one. Boom. This is the new merch. It drops next Friday. It's very cool. I like it. Who doesn't want a cat? Reminds me of the Portlandia thing. Just put a bird on it, put a cat on it. So we'll be launching that next week. We might have something really cool at Gen Con. I don't want to say anything about it yet because they might not ship in time. But if they do, if I find out they're shipping, I'll announce it at office hours. Okay. Let's see. I mean, we got any other questions, team? We got 20 minutes left of our dedicated time. I know there was a bunch of GM. There was a bunch of questions around top GM that I had seen floated around, and I was kind of expecting I would see them in the Q&A, at least in the anonymous, or I would see them come at here. But maybe those questions have been answered. So yeah, what do you all want to talk about? What can I answer for you? Let me see what other stuff we're building. Oh, here's an interesting one. Let me tell you about a little feature we're building. So 50% of people who visit the site who are not logged in do not use filters. Out of logged in users, 70% of them use filters, or search or something. So a lot of people don't use filters that aren't logged in. But if you do use a filter, your conversion rate is 7%. If you don't use filters, your conversion rate is 3%. So if we can get people to use filters, the thinking there is like we can increase the conversion rate quite dramatically. So we are hopeful to run a test where when you land on search, if you are an anonymous user, essentially you don't have an account with us, we don't have a cookie attached to you and you're not logged in, there'll be kind of like a full screen takeover that prompts you a few questions, like what are you looking for, a one-shot, a campaign, or play-by-post? You pick from there. You hit submit and you get your next option. When do you want to play? Day of the week, and what time do you want to play? It auto applies those filters. The thinking here is people might be low engagement. They're like, I'm just looking, right? But if we ask them to choose, they might then think about that choice. And like, well, I'm just looking, right? I'm just browsing. But if we ask them, well, what are you looking for really? Like, well, I mean, if I was looking, I'd be looking for a one-shot. Okay, cool, I'm gonna show you one-shots. Well, if I was looking, I would look for a game on Tuesday nights. We show them Tuesday nights. Now, before they would just kind of browse whatever they landed on. They could be looking at the site at 3 a.m. I'm like, 3 a.m.? Who's playing games at 3 a.m.? Well, you're browsing the site at 3 a.m., my guy. So that's it. This actually comes from a number of Facebook comments. People have commented, this site sucks. All the games are at 3 a.m. And I've seen this person comment, and like, you are commenting at 3 a.m. at night. Of course, all the games are at 3 a.m. But I digress. So the idea is, if this person is kind of prompted with that, the chance that they might be more engaged now, because now they're looking at something that they might actually want. They might then also be more involved in the filters. They might be more likely to stay engaged. So this kind of full page takeover. So this will be a test that we run, and with the goal to see, hey, does this increase engagement? Does it filter engagement? Does this also increase, and does it keep our funnel metrics the same? And does it increase checkout conversion? So we'll see. Daniel Hancock's 8,472 asks, when can we expect to hear about the upcoming events such as DCC Carl, Daggerheart, etc.? I don't think there's a current Daggerheart activation or event going on, But yeah, I don't think there is. But once they're ready, I'm ready. DCC Carl, I believe I'm speaking with them next week about how we're pulling the trigger and when we're doing that. So hopefully very soon. A friend is always a friend is also a kind sport. Can you get? I have no control over the Goblin badge. You know, that's not. I have control over a lot of things as the boss. That badge, I got no control over. How do you prepare your s'mores? With very minimal marshmallow. What ice cream is the best? Anything with vanilla and peanut butter cups. Is StartPlaying doing anything for Gamescom? We're not. We'll probably be doing more conventions in 2027, big time. But I definitely pulled back on a lot of conventions this past year to spend more time with my son. Does one actually run West Marches? No, West Marches really came from the idea of like this is a hypothesis. West Marches came out from the idea that finding a game is hard. Now that finding a game is easier because of tools like StartPlaying, I think where West Marches solve the problem, it's not as necessary anymore. Now, it still solves a problem for a lot of people, but I think there were a lot of people who were just like, well, this is all I have, you know, but now there's like, their schedule, there was no one else that worked for their schedule, so this West Marches was like the best thing that they had. But now that there's just so many GMs and so many games that they can find that game at 1 a.m. that works for them. And so I think that has probably been why we've seen West Marches, or at least how people advertise or use West Marches, like not grow and kind of shrink a little bit, is because the problem West Marches solves is becoming less of a problem. And that's just a hypothesis. I don't have much to attribute that to other than understanding why we developed West Marches and thinking about like where the solutions have come from and what they've been able to solve. What fundraising events are coming up? God, Gab has them. Gab is our head of ops. She has them all laid out for the year. And I do not know what they are, but I remember she showed them all to me, and they all look amazing. But so there'll be more coming up. Maybe next office hours I will have a list for them, and I can talk more about them. Valentine is amazing. She is fantastic. She's at the beach right now. Let's see. Tyler Hathaway 7,896 says I had a player do a few one-shots with other GMs on StartPlaying games that the top GM flag, but he said that they were not great GMs. He asked me what qualifies someone as a great someone for the great GM tag. What qualifies someone for the great GM tag? I think you mean the top GM tag. Yeah, that email and also the FAQ lays out what is required to get that tag. Now, if your player didn't have that great of an experience, I think that the best thing they can do is to reflect that experience in their review. Reviews are literally one of the ways how that top GM badge comes about. Running games is how that comes about. The retention rate to player. So if the GM continues to run games and players continue to come back to that GM, is a huge factor in that GM having that badge. We used to have site onboarding, which is kind of like your retention to the site. We don't have that anymore, but you know your player retention is a huge factor. Alongside your reviews, alongside your review rate, which is only on verified, and then on how many games you're running. So a lot of these things can't really be gained very well. If you were to game them, you're just becoming a more successful game master. Is really kind of what it boils down to. And when we changed them to be these things from what we had previously, we had a lot of that in mind when we wanted to make this path forward of like, hey, here's what you need to do. Now, some of those GMs might not be meeting those requirements. They might have met them before. They might have gotten the notice that hey, you are in your 1 month grace period. If you don't meet these requirements by the end of 30 days, you'll lose your top GM status. Let's see. Participal. Let's see. What else do we have in terms of product that we are working on? Driving kids to start play, driving traffic to start playing for kids versus start playing. Kids app checklist, dead credit expiration, frozen state, search filters, order of importance, events. Search order in terms of importance. That's a fun one. Let's talk about that. Let me go ahead and bring this up. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share with you interesting. So out of all the filters that are the most, out of people who are logged in, the most important filters to people who are logged in are game system. That's the number one filter. Day of the week is the second most important filter. And start time is the third most important filter. And then, let's see. Max price, status, experience, age range, and are all kind of following that. Now, what's interesting though is if we go to if I look at filters that had the highest conversions. So that's what I told you before is just like, hey, these are the filters that are used a lot, right? These are filters that are constantly being used. If I talk to you now about, hey, these filters, when they're used, they result in a conversion, the highest rate. Seats left, identity tags, minimum duration, maximum duration, experience, status, game language, themes, modules, settings, platform, minimum price, start date, languages, exclude, and then it gets to day of the week. Now, what's interesting about this is you see some of like the day of the week stuff is much further down. Some of the other stuff is much further up. That's probably because at this point, these things are, they're filtering down so deeply that these people know exactly what they want and they're trying to filter so specifically. So I thought this was fun. But this is all coming out of like the idea of like this test to show more, to force people into filter usage. Let's see. Someone also was asking, they had posted in our feature request, so like, hey, why don't you let us exclude all systems? Like, because we have the ability, like you could exclude Dungeons and Dragons, you can exclude Pathfinder, but why don't you let us exclude like Brindlewood Bay? And because like there's only 7 listings of Brindlewood Bay. It feels weird to exclude games where there's so few to be there. To write code that does that is unnecessary. If you are searching for any game, I mean, if I go to right now, if I go to start playing and I just go to find games, and I'm looking at a schedule and I go to Wednesday, and I go to 5:30 to let's say 11. I show those games and I go to my filters and I decide, hey, I'm going to exclude, exclude D&D. And we also, you only have 40 games. Now, there is going to also be, let's see, get rid of exclude that. Get rid of exclude Dungeons and Dragons, exclude Pathfinder. You have a much smaller selection. So that's one of the reasons why we haven't allowed for this larger exclusion. Exactly. Good, yeah, great point, Shivak. When we're talking about those deep dives and filtering. Okay. Team, we got 5 minutes left. What other questions do you want to talk about before we wrap it up? We also have a feature we're going to be launching soon, GM location capture. We're doing essentially sorry about that. Had to change out the pack. So yeah, we're looking into how we're going to do GM location capture. So this is, it'll be opt-in. You, the game master, will somehow tell us your location, and we will then go ahead and use that to display you in certain markets. So like you're in Chicago, you're in Austin, you're in LA. And allow folks to search for GMs by location. This could be kind of like, phase 0.1 of in-person. And it'll only show GMs who are actively running games on the platform. So that's going to be kind of one of those things that we kind of use to prevent disintermediation. If you're not running games on the platform, like you won't be successfully listed. And it's kind of like one of those things, like if you continue to run games on the platform, you're going to get that exposure. What if I live in one of the places and move to another? Can I change? Yeah, of course. It's gonna be like something in your profile. It'll be worldwide, probably after we work out the kinks. Yeah, definitely will be worldwide. Let's see. Oddscroll says, after kids games, will you be looking for games for pets? No, we won't be doing games for pets until 2027, 2028. Next will be in-person gaming. But games for pets is definitely on the docket. Is there a new site feature or project you were wanting to have in place this year? DM, yeah, kids games in a big chunk of the in-person stuff. Games for Grandmas, that's called Brindlewood Bay. That's live. That's here. No, but there is some other stuff that Veronica that kind of touches on. There is some like cool stuff that around community center work and some outreach stuff that would be really cool. Of like, oh yeah, like hey, where GMs can go and run games at senior facilities or Big Brother Big Sister things, programs like that StartPlaying can get involved in, which will be really cool. But there's a lot of stuff we need to figure out as we grow and get bigger. Besides kids, I mean, yeah, DM Dan. I mean, in person is a huge one. GM games. What's the value of location info? Well, again, location info will only be opt-in. So we won't. You'll have to choose to give us that data. We will not require you to do it at all. And it'll be something kind of like, I'm looking for a game master in this city. Because we want a GM for an in-person game. Maybe we want to do like when I ran a lot of in-person games, a lot of people were like, hey, we want to do a bachelor party, or we have so-and-so's birthday party. So it's a lot of like private events come from in-person gaming. So this would be really valuable for GMs to kind of increase their in-person business as well. If that kind of like clarifies the kind of reasoning behind that. So first, what we're going to do is we're going to grab that data, or let GMs opt into it. After GMs opt into it, we're going to start figuring out where our markets are, and then we're also going to start trying planning events around those markets. And then we're going to roll out probably like some search functionality where people can start looking for GMs based off of location for private hiring. Let's see. Expanding to the large veteran support community would be great too. Yeah, there was Admiral Adventures. There was some stuff we had done with some guys here had run some games for at the not Coast Guard, maybe Navy, maybe it was Navy, but it was great. It was kind of like pretty unofficial, but they I set them up with a bunch of games, and I'd run some games for them, and like taught 2 other ones how to run games, and now they have like a little RPG club. But stuff like that I think could be really fun. That's gone. Devon, if private events come around and there's certain GMs for Cypher, will you put up a good word for me with MCG? Of course. I don't think that's going to be a private. I think private games are going to be really driven by the publisher already having a list of GMs. But I don't think MCG is going to be. I think that's going to be open to as many GMs as possible. I think that's going to be really to really blow it out of the water. Okay. What other questions we got? Questions about kids games revies? Question about kids games revies? Revos? Revos? Tyler Hathaway, 7,896. What does that mean? Reviews. About kids games reviews. Okay, what's the question? Sorry, I run games on our school and have some there. Yeah, you run games on our school and have some there. Great. What is the question? Question, for kids games, is there a time frame we'd have to run them in? Is there a time frame? GM Logan, are you saying, GM, could you rephrase that question? Well, let me answer this. If you're asking, is there a time frame you run them in? We have defined age bands that we say, like, hey, if you're running a game for this age band, your game should be like X length in terms of like hours. And we say that like campaigns should be X amount of sessions long. This is kind of what parents are booking for. So like some games should be like 6 sessions long, 8 sessions long, 10 sessions long, 12 sessions long. Some age groups should only be playing for an hour. Some should be playing for an hour and a half, some for 2 hours, some for 2.5. Some can do 3, but still that's kind of pushing it on a digital device when they're that young. So there is kind of like some instructions that we do provide in our training modules. How are we looking for getting payouts in other currencies? DM Dan, right now that is kind of a limitation that we have with Stripe. So it's gonna, your payout is in different currencies. It gets paid out to your bank, and then your bank converts it. But that's still kind of a limitation of what we have with Stripe. And if you were here earlier when I was talking about why we are still with Stripe, that kind of answers our question. I don't know how much of that you were here for. I hate that YouTube live chat can't handle line breaks. I know, that's why Orbitail, I'm always looking for like that question so I can just like easily okay, this is a question but doesn't have a question. Have the Kids Games GMs been selected for the beta period? When I applied, I didn't have a lot of games on SPG under my belt, but I have more history now. The Amethyst Tankard, applications for the kids games haven't opened, so those are still closed. They will likely open end of June, end of July, somewhere between then. Jamie, how long ago did we have to run a game for the application if we ran a kids game for 5 to 15 years ago? it's how well. I mean, you have to get those reviews from parents. So if you can get those 5 reviews, that's really the core part of the application process. So do you have 5 parents, guardians that will vouch for you, saying that you are a great GM for kids? And that's kind of like a core part of it. In being a parent, like it's one of those things where, like, if you're a parent already, tell your kid, hey, get your friends, have them come over to the house. We're gonna run a D&D game tonight. And then having them all talk about how it was. That's also a great way to handle this if you are a parent. Tyler Hathaway, 7,896. Their question is, I've ran games for Outschool and have reviews through them. Is there a way for me to use those to qualify for kids games on SBG? Unfortunately, it's not, because we can't email that, that review doesn't allow us to email that person to ask them any questions. So Tyler, if you had contact with any of those folks, you could ask them to give you a review. It is still, like I said, unverified, but if we were to reach out to these people to confirm anything from the review, we'd have to be able to. Yes, there's a sign up that updates that's for updates for nothing else. Oh yeah, right now, yeah, charging in other currencies. I think, more in terms of charging other currencies. It was spoken about far a while ago, but I suppose that Stripe limitation would still be safe. Yes, it's still one of those things. It is something we're still kind of keeping our eyes out on, and Stripe, there's a lot that is coming on the roadmap, but that is not one of the things that is currently there. If we charged one of the problems is the way our charges go through also make that very difficult, because our charge is you sign up for a game and you get charged later, and so that there's like this authorization and then the charge happening later is one of the things that makes that difficult, rather than a charge at checkout, which hurt conversions dramatically. So it's not, it hurts GMs more right now than is worth it to change the structure for that. But also, every other charge after that is also an off charge. So it's kind of this 2-factored problem. So Dream Sleeper. So if you get the chance to apply, there's a whole learning document that you'll have to go through to take a quiz that talks about the different age bands and the length of game for those different age bands. Some kids, the younger the kid, the shorter the game should be, which again is where I think we're still working on how we're making the financials of this work, because like I said, like the Zoom side of things makes these games very expensive to record these games, to store these games. But that is required to make sure that not only are we compliant, but parents know that their kids are safe, and then also GMs, they know that they are safe, because if anything has happened, it is not a he said or they said situation. There is a proof of everything that happened, so we can go right to that. So this keeps not only players safe, but this keeps GMs safe, and that is paramount when everyone here, us, the GMs, are both being stewards for kids games, right? But if you're running a kids game and you're running it, for an hour and a half, and it's a $25, $30 game, that's a lot more profitable, even so than some, if you're running an adult game, right? So that's something that we think is kind of valuable to keep in mind. And also the fact that you will, if you're running a session, every session you run, you'll all get to collect that fee, even if someone is going to be out a session. There's no skip session feature. You can skip a session, but everyone is charged for every session. When you sign up, you're charged for every session. You can leave the campaign to avoid being charged, but you are charged for every session when you sign up for it. Okay. Team, I think we talked about everything today. I don't think there's anything that we've left out. Let's see. Is there anything else y'all want to talk about before we go? Because if not, it is 2:10, and I will let you all go and have a fantastic. Actually, let's do I have a meeting I need to jump to? Okay, no. Okay, great. Yeah, we'll give it another 2 minutes. If there's any other lingering questions, I'll make sure to get those. If you do have that question, make sure you type question and the question so I can call it out in chat. Just something nice, Orbital. Since I've seen the metrics for Top GM, it forced me to ask more aggressively for reviews. Now that I have enough, they're great. Fantastic. What do you use to trim your beard? A fantastic barber. Her name is Jane. She flies from Portland. She drives from Portland once a month. I have a standing appointment with her every month. It's fantastic. I can't trim my beard. I do a terrible job. I just let a professional do it. Jane is fantastic. Jane, I know you're not watching this, but if you're out there, you do a great job. Thank you, Jane. What was the golden coin in my package? Any recommended topics to go over for the Dungeon Masterclass event? I would think about what. Don't think about just for the GMs on Start Playing. Think about for the people that want to become a GM. Think about the people who want to be a great GM for their table at home. Think about the people that are maybe afraid to become a GM. Think about what people haven't thought about running. I think that would be great. There's, of course, I think Customer is putting out, the Six team is putting out like a help doc of like, hey, here's some great ideas of what you can run. But that's just kind of off the top of my head. I believe Hunter is putting together a document of some stuff that he's researched, and that might be a little more illustrative in where you might want to focus your attention though. Who's the one Gen Con social guest list? Who is on the Gen Con social guest list? I'll never tell. You just have to be there. You never know who's going to show. Don't tell anyone, but it's Tom Cruise this year. Tom Cruise did send me one of his famous cakes, so you never know. Good to hear. I have my ideas, but I'd like to see where everyone's at. Great. Okay. All right, team. Thank you so much. This was fantastic. I hope all of your questions have been answered. I hope everything you need is there. If you have any future questions, you can always drop them in the Q&A doc. I try to get to that every time we have an office hours, and we'll likely be back here in another 2 weeks, maybe 3 if we're heads down and we just need to capture, knock some things out because we got a lot of work to do. I hope you have a fantastic weekend. I hope your games are full. I hope your games are fun, and I will talk to you soon. All right, team.
Grab your rogue friend, a ranger, and some casters. Time to roll, have a good time, but don't burn down the tavern. Let's burn down the tavern. Time for total party chill. There's a critical hit, critical fail. Hold your head, see that dragon, we can slay it. And we'll level up all night till we get to that big bad evil guy. Casters. Time to roll, have a good time, but don't burn down the tavern. Let's burn down the tavern. Time for total party chill. There's a critical hit, critical fail. that dragon, we can slay it, and we'll level up all night till we get to that big bad